Welcome to the Jones Zone, a podcast by Darryl and JJ Jones.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Jones Zone. Today, we're blessed with the presence of Mike Aversa with Aversa Estate Sales and Appraisal. This is such an enormous aspect of real estate right now. We have so many estate sales, so many people who are inheriting houses. In fact, I was just talking to a client the other day. He's asking me about my clients, and I said, I'll tell you, an enormous majority of my clients are people who have inherited homes, and oftentimes when they inherit a home, it's full of items, and they have to. So, thank you, Mike. Welcome to the show, and I really appreciate your attention. In fact, I don't know if you remember this, but I first met you around 14, 15 years ago. You did an estate on a street called Puente in the city of Brea. Thank you. Thanks for joining us. Tell me a little bit about yourself and your company.
Okay. Well, first, thanks for the opportunity to talk with you and your viewers. My wife and I started in this business around 1996. So we've been around a long time. We started collectors in 1990, amassed a whole bunch of antiques, collectibles. And so we wanted to find out exactly what we had. We got some proper training. We became certified appraisers. And from there, it grew into the estate sale business.
What's the difference between an estate sale and a garage sale or an auction?
An estate sale is more of a formal way of liquidating your personal property. Anybody can do a garage sale. You just set the tables out or open your garage and you go for it. In an estate sale, it's more organized, it's more formal, it's better advertised, everything's tagged and priced, and it's run by professionals. So many of the times, people that are doing garage sales really miss the opportunities for making the most money they can. I've got friends that attend garage sales all the time, and they come back to me and say, man, you should see the deal I got. I bought a $300 item for $5. These people had no clue.
Oh, yeah. I've read a story once where I think they found something extremely expensive inside of a picture frame or something. That was in a newspaper years ago. But
Yes.
what is the biggest jewel that you've happened to find? Any stories that would be interesting?
Well, yeah, we've in the past we've worked for some professional fiduciaries. They've called us in to work for their clients, and one time we went through the client's home. Went into her office. I'm clean. We go through everything meticulous, doors, drawers, cabinets, everything. So I'm going through her office, and here's a rubber band box in her cabinet. And I open up the box and I shake it and I go, Jesus, it's not rubber bands in there. And I open up the box and here's a little pouch with $50,000 worth of jewelry in there, including a $30,000 Art Deco ring.
How do you know the values? Is this just, I guess that's maybe a silly question, but is this just a matter of experience and research, et cetera? I guess that's obvious.
It is some of that, but we, as certified appraisers, we spent over 400 hours in training with a local appraisal college here in Orange County. So we've studied everything from ceramics to glassware to jewelry, Native American, and on and on. And from that point, yes, then it becomes experience. It becomes how to use the internet, where to look for the values. And we have to do our due diligence every sale and make sure that we're pricing everything correctly.
And it's a great deal of trust. I mean, goodness gracious, because
we've walked away from sales because there is that lack of trust. Some people feel that they need to be at the estate sale to watch us and watch our cashiers. It just isn't going to happen because it puts an emotional strain on not only my staff, but it puts a strain on the people that come in to buy because they know there's a family member just watching over everything.
Yeah, and I've noticed too that there are certain collectibles that warrant a lot more money, but it's to a specific audience. In other words, what's the famous phrase? One man's trash is another man's treasure. Right. Are there any really popular collectibles at the moment? It's 2024 here. We're at the end of 2024. What are you seeing out there?
The market has changed so much in 30 years. The internet had a huge effect on everything in the collectibles market. Things that used to be rare are no longer rare. I mean, you look on eBay and you'll find 200 of them, or 500, or 2,000. So, the Hummel market is down. Yadros figurines are down. Precious moments are, you can't give those puppies away. Beanie Babies. What is popular? That's a tough one. Mid-century modern is very popular. Pottery, older pottery and ceramics are still popular. Turn of the century is what I'm talking, 1900, 1890, 1920s. Art Deco, still popular, 1920s, 30s. Art Nouveau, art 1915, 1920 items. Those designs are still popular with the collectors, and they will still pay a good amount of money for premium primo pieces.
What's the common reason that people have estate sales? I mentioned at the beginning that people who inherit houses, but are there many folks who aren't necessarily inherit a house that just say, hey, it's time for an estate sale?
Yeah, most of the time it's death of a family member, but we're starting to get a lot of calls for downsizing. People moving out of California, people moving into homes and smaller places, that type of thing. The trouble with those type of sales is relocation sales. They may be taking 50, 60% of the items in the home. So we base our fee on a commission only. So we need to see X amount of dollars in the home before we take on a project. So while they may have some nice things, but there may only be $5,000 left in the home by the time they get through. That's not enough for us to work with.
Right. Yeah, well, that makes sense. And then you guys, if I remember correctly, whenever I see estate sales, they oftentimes are Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yeah, normally we do a 2-day sale,
Okay.
Friday and Saturday. We never do a Sunday sale. We learned early on that Sunday, especially here in Orange County, it's a church day, it's a family day, that type of thing. So we stopped doing Sunday sales right away. And, we're involved in our church, our staff's involved in their church, so it makes it very difficult. So we do strictly Friday, Saturday. Sometimes we will add a third day, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Years ago, we cleaned out a complete 4,000 square foot home in Cowan Heights in 3 days. And it was full, packed to the walls with antiques and collectibles.
Now, what happens to the stuff that you don't sell? How's that work?
We work with a clean out guy. We've had the same guy for, 12 years now. He's here in Orange County. And he comes in and he works with the client, or we can set it up ourselves, whatever the client wishes to do. But he will come in and for a small fee, he'll take what's left in the house, clean out the house, the garage, the backyard, whatever's left over that the client wants to get rid of. And he's done in a couple of days and the house is empty.
And that's just considered valueless, just trash, I guess.
By that time, thousands of people have looked at online at those items from our advertisements. Hundreds and hundreds of people have come through the sale and looked at the stuff. So if it didn't sell in 3-day sale and after thousands of people, it's probably not going to sell.
And it's only worth what a buyer's willing to pay.
Exactly. Yeah.
So what type of advertising do you do? You'd mentioned online.
Well, in the old days, we all used to advertise in the penny saver.
Right.
And Register, Orange County Register, LA Times, all paper ads. Thank God those days are over, because a small ad in a venue like that would cost me anywhere from $500 to $1,000 just for a sale. Now I can advertise online and reach tens of thousands in Southern California. In fact, all over the United States. We use Facebook advertising, we use Instagram, we use X, formerly Twitter, we use TikTok, and we do YouTube videos now that we advertise. Plus, we use site-specific venues that deal specifically with the estate sale business, estatesales.net.org, and a couple of other ones.
Are all the estate sales, suppose the majority of them are done at the house? Are they done elsewhere? For example, at either a store or I know a buddy of mine loves antiques, and he goes to swap meets, this place, I think near the Rose Bowl, or at the Rose Bowl once a month or something like that. Do you utilize those at all? Are they useful?
We do 90% of our sales are at the house. We don't really have a venue that we can use outside of the client's home. We do take a few things on consignment for online sales. In fact, we have one going on right now on our website that's an online sale. So we do use that opportunity sometimes when there's not a lot of stuff and they have 3 or 4 things to get rid of, like the Kincaid behind me here. I just took that on consignment yesterday from a client. So we do things like that on a regular basis, but 90% of our sales are in the home.
Well, I'm noticing, for example, because you have trends and fads, et cetera, and I know certain pieces of furniture, and it seems as though the donation party, your typical Goodwills and things of that nature, they've seemed to really cut down the last, well, it's probably been going on 5 to 10 years, as far as what they accept. It seems as though they're accepting a lot less furniture. What is probably the most mistakenly overvalued thing? I'm thinking of oak right now. Unfortunately, oak seems to be out, and it's been out for a while. Anything else comes to mind?
Well, I think big furniture in general is gone. Uh, Personally, we had a huge sideboard in our home, uh, circa 1900. I think we paid about $5,000 for it 20 years ago. So we kind of, our kids came to us and says, look, guys, we don't want your stuff. We don't want the antique furniture. We don't want the things in the cases. So we did a clean out and we started selling stuff. And finally, after 6 months of advertising, I finally sold that sideboard for $200. And it took months and months and months to get rid of it. The generation today does not like wood furniture. They don't like big pieces. They don't like things that that are heavy. They have to move. They're IKEA, and we call them the IKEA Ashley generation.
What about just the opposite? Is there anything that, well, maybe you just mentioned it, IKEA, Ashley, what is popular with this younger generation or people in general?
Well, mid-century.
Okay.
Century modern, mid-century Danish in the way of furniture is still sellable. That market has softened a bit the last few years. But, and the thing is, we're in Southern California too. That's a whole different zone by itself. You still go back east and in the South, they still like antiques. They still like some Victorian furniture because they have the big Southern mansions and it fits more with the decor. Out here, everybody is just minimalist, is what we call them, of course, and that word floats around a lot these days. So they don't like a lot of stuff that they have to clean, move, and keep polished.
Do you get out of state buyers often?
Every so often in an estate sale, I'll get a text or an email that says, "Oh, I saw this on your current sale. Do you ship?" And unfortunately, it's a lot of time and effort to do that. So we try to sell primarily locally first. And if it's a big key expensive item, we do try to pre-sell it. And if that includes some shipping, then we'll try to do that. But we have a good network of buyers locally, so we try to deal with them first.
I was going to ask you that. Do you have a lot of the same buyers? Because I had a friend of mine who was a car collector, and he had access to, I don't know how, but he had access to people who, when they pass, there's obviously things like that, cars, and he would get kind of a shot, or so, for lack of a better term, on obtaining that car. Speaking of cars, you guys don't do cars.
We do, yeah. We sell cars. We've sold boats. We've sold RVs. We do it all.
Walk us through. How's it work? So someone inherits a 4,000 square foot house in Cowan Heights, and they go, okay, what do we do next?
Well, we walk through, they call us, we have an initial client meeting, and we meet with the client, walk through the house, find out exactly what they want, and then we sit there with them. I have a portfolio, and I sit there with them and show them a little bit of who we are and what we do. If they agree to hiring us, we sign an agreement. And from that point, we get complete access to the house. That's one of our requirements. We need codes and keys and everything else to get in on a regular basis. I had one guy that wanted to come and open the door for me every time we wanted to work because he didn't, there again, lack of trust, didn't want to relinquish the keys. I said, bye. I said, good luck to you. So we need complete access to come and go as we please. From that point, we come in, my wife and I, and a crew as needed. Everything comes out of closets, cabinets, drawers. We bring in 6-foot tables. We drape the tables with tablecloths, everything. We group like things together. Let's say there's a bunch of cranberry glass. We put all the red glass over on one table, all the dinnerware on another table, maybe Yadros on another table. And from that point, we take photographs. We don't use an iPhone. I have a professional Nikon camera that we take great photos. People always comment how great our photos look because we use a nice camera. We advertise, so that's when the advertising starts. We do all of our work in-house. I'm pretty tech savvy, so I do all my videos, YouTube videos, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, all of that stuff is I do. And then we start tagging and pricing everything. My wife and I are the certified appraisers. We are the only ones that tag and price. We have pricing guns. We go through and we put a price or a sign on every item in the home. Then we have the sale 2-3 days and deal with what's left.
How do you watch over it? Just a simple, I mean, how many people are with your company are there at the estate sale?
It all depends on the size of the sale. The Cowan Heights sale, I think we had 12 people working that day, 13 people. The whole dining room was filled with jewelry. We had several case attendants. I think we had 3 girls working the jewelry cases. Then we had front door security. We had 3 cashiers. And then I'm always on the floor. And then we had a couple other people on the floor. So it depends. Average, we're probably using 6 staff members.
Oh, that's a larger amount than I had anticipated. That's pretty thorough.
Well, you got to have at least 2 cashiers and you got to have a front door person. And then if there's smalls or stealable or jewelry, you got to have at least 1 case person. So right there, it's 5, and then I'm on the floor. So,
and you mentioned cost. I mean, you may have already said it. What is the typical cost to pay you guys? You're strictly commission, correct?
We are. Now, there are a lot of new kids on the block. In the last 30 years since we've popped up, there's a lot of new people doing the business. A lot of franchises have come into play, 3 or 4 major players here in Orange County. They're not only charging a commission, but they're charging actually a labor fee for their setup. I think it's ridiculous to do that. Clients don't like it. The first question I get, do you have a labor cost for your people? I said, no, we charge a flat commission. And that commission is 40%.
All right, and that's based on of course, your evaluation or what actually sells.
Yes. Yeah. And if the sale, like I mentioned, we walk away from a lot of sales because there's just not enough volume in there. We like to see 15 to 20,000 gross in the home.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense. And now, what about hoarders? I've come across hoarders. What happens if you get a hoarder? Our house is just so overwhelmingly full of stuff.
It's funny you should say that. September, we just finished our hoarder sale. We looked at that house in June of this year. They had to wait until the family member passed before they moved forward. So August, they call us and say, hey, we're ready. This was the hoarder of hoarder sales. This was probably the biggest hoarder sale we've done. Every room, 2,500 square foot in Placentia, every room was filled to the ceiling. You could not walk in the rooms. You could not walk in the living room. It was knee deep in the living room.
Knee deep or waist deep? I've seen those hoarders.
Yeah, well, it was in certain spots. It was waist deep too.
Yeah.
Kitchen, everything, garage. You couldn't walk into. You couldn't access the garage from the house, from the door from the house. Couldn't it? So we agreed with the client, met with them. They did not want to put any money up front. I told them, I said, you're going to have a huge trash bill. And so they did that. Well, we don't want to put any money up front, but it's okay if we pay for that. So I worked with our clean out guy. We worked out a deal. He was going to defer his costs until the sale was over. We started in August. By the end of August, we had 14 truckloads of trash go out the door. And he had a big trash trailer he used, much larger than the little dumpsters they put on your property. This was more of the 40-yard container size that you see construction. So we had 14 of those go out the door. Was over $8,000 in trash fee. So it took us all that time for the crew and us to get every room cleaned up, set up, and priced and tagged. And we had the sale first part of September, 3-day sale. We really cleaned out that house. I mean, it was full of antique clocks, antique glass. We had a full dining room full of costume jewelry and fine jewelry, coins, money, currency, all kinds of stuff. It was a great sale, over $60,000 in 3 days.
I had a hoarder's house years ago too. And what's kind of surprised me, they had a lot of new items, and meaning they had ordered stuff online or from the store and it had never even been opened. It was oftentimes still had plastic on it and things like that, or whatever.
Yeah, Home Shopping Club and now Amazon. Just amazing that the stuff you find that's been unopened in a person's house. Yeah. And as we're going through cleaning out the floor, we're finding jewelry in this drawer, jewelry in this purse. And when I say jewelry, I'm talking gold, sterling. I think we found over $17,000 in gold jewelry thrown throughout the house, and another 5,000 or 6,000 in sterling.
Well, so gold, diamonds, sterling, that's still pretty valuable.
It is. And, most of the buyers, there's a whole group of buyers that just buy for melt value. Gold is right up at 2,700 an ounce right now. So it's a big commodity.
Are there any items that you advise people to keep and not include in the estate sale?
Well, we always encourage the client to go through and remove all their personal items, although we always keep an eye open for photos and personal paperwork. We found credit cards, driver's license as we're going through the house. So we set everything like that aside. But we do encourage them to take anything that they have doubts about. Well, that was grandma's old chair. And I'm telling you, and they say, how much do you think you're going to get for it? And I'm thinking, well, we're only going to get $20 for that chair. If you love it, you better keep it because, you don't want any regrets. So we always tell them to do that. Then there's certain things you cannot sell. We don't sell alcohol. We have a wine buyer if we come across really valuable or old bottles of wine, but hard liquor we can't sell. We don't have a license for
You
that.
just drink it yourself?
Yeah. Sometimes actually we give it to our crew or we give it to the clean out guys. If we have a trash haul before the sale, we give it to those guys and they love it. You can't sell ivory anymore.
Oh, what's up with that?
There's an international worldwide ban on the sale of ivory because of the elephants being killed. And it has to be antique ivory prior to a certain age. You have to have a certification that it's old. And it's such a pain. I mean, there is jail time and $50,000 fine for selling ivory.
Ouch.
So we just don't sell it anymore. We just give it back to the client. Also, same thing with taxidermy, pelts, endangered species. You can get in trouble from selling the wrong kind of head on the wall. If it's a taxidermy cat or a bear or bearskin rug. Years ago, we had some turtle shells. I mean, huge saltwater turtle shells, and we couldn't sell them. Client didn't want them, so we took them down to the San Diego Zoo and donated them.
How are you regulated? Are there a lot of regulations? I mean, you mentioned what you just said. That's
there is no regulation for the estate sale business. We are licensed. We're out of Yorba Linda, so we're licensed out of US, have our business license. We have a liability bond. But other than that, there is no regulation, no overseers. Now we're certified appraisers, so I have to keep up on my certification, what they call USPAP. And you probably might be familiar with USPAP on the real estate side, because real estate appraisers and personal property appraisers have to be current with the USPAP, and it's a set of guidelines used for appraisers. So every couple of years, I have to renew that. But other than that, there's nobody watching. And that's what makes it difficult, because there's a lot of shysters out there. Not everybody. I'm saying 90% are good people out there. But I hear the horror stories from people that have met that 10% and felt that they've gotten ripped off. And, it gives everybody in the business a bad name.
Yeah, well, the same is true even with real estate. In fact, I remember years ago I had met with an elderly lady, and she thought her house was worth maybe 300,000. It was worth 600,000.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of opportunity for crooked minds to do the wrong thing.
Yeah.
What's the biggest misconception people have about estate sales?
Well, number one, people tend to either donate or throw things away because they don't believe it's estate sale worthy. Oh, it's just garage sale stuff, so we're going to donate it. People don't understand that we incorporate everything in the home into an estate sale. Tools, nuts and bolts, Tupperware. I have the saying, we sell everything from Tupperware to Tiffany, because we do. So we tell the client, don't throw anything away, don't donate anything, because let us have first crack at it. Also, clients have a misconception that their items are priceless. And that comes a lot from the fact that people and the internet now has become this area where you can just go in and put something in there in Google, and it brings it up for $20,000. And all of a sudden they think they have a $20,000 painting or a vase that's worth $5,000. They fail to look at the sold or realized prices. Anybody can ask anything on the internet for anything they want to sell. So we encourage them to look at the sold prices on eBay or find another venue. So there's a lot of misconceptions about value and price.
You mentioned donating. Where are the common places? For example, I know I do staging. Got a great, gosh darn, I can't remember the girl's name, but she helps transitioning adults into getting their first place. Right. Do you have any go-to donation places that you like?
Not anymore. There used to be some, Vets is a pretty good one, but unfortunately, they're 2 and 3 months out from picking up stuff. I mean, either they're slammed or they just don't have the help. But they're very, we have a 2 or 3 week process of getting in and getting things out. So trying to get them out in a week or two, we don't. It's impossible. A lot of furniture is that old or that poor that we just dump it. It's just not. You can't even donate it. Goodwill doesn't. Salvation Army, they don't want it. The clean out guy we work with for the last 12 years, he's recently opened up a couple of stores in Mexico. So he's a Christian brother, and he takes things down there to the store, and he has a big Christmas giveaway every year also. So he takes things down there, and sometimes we just get rid of it early because we know it's not going to sell and it's just taking up space in the sale.
How do you handle any disagreements? I mean, you mentioned it previously about emotional attachments, because I'm sure, I've come across that a lot. Yeah. How do you kind of handle that? I guess just experience, or?
It's tough. If we see too much disagreement in a sale, we just walk away. 3 months, it was probably earlier this year now, we had a call from a lady in La Habra Heights. Beautiful home filled with nice collectibles and antiques. And she was handling it, but there was a brother that lived in Arizona, high-powered insurance broker. I said, well, who's going to be the signer on the contract? She says, well, I am. I'm going to handle it, but my brother, might get involved. Well, sure enough, he contacts me and wants to see our insurance liability policy and just, this nitpicking on this and that. And I told the client, I said, he called me and started wanting to do this. Says, oh yeah, he's kind of a pain and a stickler. And come to find out, they weren't really on the same page on anything. And we've eventually just completely told her, I says, we're not going to do your sale because of your brother. He's just that. So we walk away from those kind of issues. Now, We've had sales where the client, due to the trust regulation, needs to be in the house. We tell them they have to be low key. One of our first sales, a mother and daughter, one of the daughters had passed away. They're sitting in the house at the kitchen table crying every time something went out the door. So I eventually walked over. I said, look, I said, you're really putting a dampener on people buying. I said, the emotions are running high. So they finally took it outside and sat outside, but they felt they had to be on the property. So we try to handle it with kid gloves because the emotions do run high, especially in a death of a family member.
Sometimes people will inherit a house and they live out of state. Do you get a lot of that where people go, look, just handle it. Just handle it. So, and you are that one-stop person that can do that. Everything from cleaning out, throwing the trash away, et cetera, correct?
Yeah, and we love those clients. Those are our favorite clients because we've had several over the years. I had a guy that was up in San Francisco. We did his mother's house in Yorba Linda. I'm not even sure. You know what? I did meet him. Initial contact. He came down. After that, we kept in touch via text and phone calls. He said, "Great, just get rid of everything." And we did the sale. And he's one of these kind of guys that was a businessman. He had a lot on his plate. And I love those guys because they are good clients. They don't interfere. There's not a lot of questions you have to answer. They trust you. They give you the key and say, go for it. And that's a great way to go.
How would you handle security if there was some really expensive items? Have you come across that?
Yeah, we've had some high-end jewelry sales. In 25 years of doing estate sale, over 25 years, we've never had a major robbery. Now, we get a little bit of theft once in a while. I mean, you're not going to stop theft. Somebody putting something in their pocket. I mean, look at Gucci's over here at Fashion Island or South Coast Plaza. They lost $100,000 worth of purses. Somebody walks in and they just smash and grab. So that kind of stuff goes on. So you're not going to completely eliminate theft, but we try to mitigate it as much as possible. We have people on the floor. We lock up, and I think I mentioned we lock up key items in cases, and we use a security system. We have a camera system over the cashiers. We have a camera system at the front door and in rooms, different rooms. I'm on the floor. We've even gone to the extent of hiring an armed guard.
Mike, what advice would you give someone that's considering a estate sale for the process of downsizing or moving into assisted living? Any advice for those folks?
Yes. First of all, as I mentioned, family needs to go through. They don't want any regrets, so they need to go through everything and pick out the things that they really want to keep. But after they get through that point, I think I mentioned don't donate, don't throw away, let the estate sale company handle that. I mean, that's a very important issue because almost lately people are just, they want to get in there and they want to do my job for me. And they just want to take control and they want to throw stuff away. And we went into one client one time, she had bags filled in her garage. I said, what's all this stuff? Oh, that's donate stuff. And I opened it up. There was $1,000 worth of stuff in the bag. I says, no, we'll take care of it. I put it all on the table and it sold. So it's important that they leave the estate sale business to us. Another issue is that because there are so many estate sale companies in the marketplace these days, they need to do their homework. They need to read reviews online. They need to talk to have somebody come out and talk to them. I get emails from people that want me to fill out a questionnaire. Oh, well, answer these 15 questions, and I may call you over the phone. I take some time and I do that from time to time, but they really need to meet me in person, know who I am, meet my wife, know who we are as a couple, as a business. You can't do that over the telephone. You can't do that over the internet. So they need that to take some time, do some initial homework online, and from that point, set up a few appointments. Not every estate sale company is created equal. Sometimes the guys that may have less commission, but they do less work. They don't do all the pricing and the tagging. They don't take everything out of the cabinets and the closets. So it's important, if you want it done right, you want grandma's items presented to the public correctly, you need everything out. You need everything photographed. You need everything priced and tagged. And it's got to be visible on the internet. So those are important factors to consider when hiring a company.
No, that makes a lot of sense. Well, hey, if our listeners want to get a hold of you, Mike, what would be the best way to get a hold of you and contact you?
Our website, Aversa, my last name, AversaEstateSales.com.
And Aversa is Aversa.
That's correct. And estate sales, plural. Yeah, Aversa Estate Sales with an S on the end. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Mike. This is a wealth of information. I know a lot of people are going to benefit from this interview, and I really appreciate you joining us here on the Jones Zone. If you haven't subscribed yet to the channel, please subscribe. Go back to listen to some of our other shows. And Mike, thank you again so much. Enjoy the rest of your year. God bless.
Thank you, Darryl. Thank you for the opportunity. Bye-bye.